Hey everybody, Steve Clayton here, and let's talk about your website, building your website, what you really need, and how to get it done. First of all, in my opinion, I think a lot of people overthink this. I think a lot of people, when they're just starting out, they think a website has to be perfect. They think a website has to be, all-encompassing and just take forever to get done. But really, I would encourage you to just think about why you even want a website. And for those of you starting out, it's really what I call a presence site. You simply have to stake your claim. You have to sort of say, here I am, and you have to have kind of the bare minimum out there in order to make sure that new customers, because that's the only kind you have when you're first starting out, right, can find you. Okay? So ready, fire, aim works just fine, and you really should not, put too much pressure on yourself. I think that many times, a website is it's sort of a necessary evil, and it's a means to an end. And there are very few websites out there that really make a huge difference, in my opinion, in converting customers. So in other words, you've got, on the one hand, you've got the website exists and it's professional looking and it's acceptable level of quality and it kind of gets the job done with the bare minimum. And then so on one end of the continuum you have that, and on the other end you might have the best website that was ever built that cost $8 billion and 16 years to build, right? The difference in conversion and getting new customers and all that kind of stuff between those two is very, very small. Okay, it's the old 80-20 rule again. Okay, so for 20% of the work, you're going to get 80% of the value. And at the end of the day, that means having just the bare minimum website. I would strongly encourage you to start there and not get too distracted by spending too much time, energy, money on building out the best website in the world. I think it's much, much more important just to have those bare minimum, because remember, all we want to do is we've got basically three marketing goals all the time. We want to get new customers, we want to keep existing customers, and we want to get more money from each sale and increase our revenue per sale, our profit per sale. Those are essentially our three goals. And honestly, getting new customers is really the biggest reason to have a website. Okay, but the secret there is it's not so much that the website actually gets the customers. It's simply having your entrance on the information superhighway with an acceptable sort of minimum level of quality and quantity website. All right, that's what gets you there, because that's what then starts to get you to show up in the search engine rankings and the mobile listings and all those wonderful things later on. It allows you to do AdWords advertising and all the things that we're going to talk about, all the things that make up your marketing plan. It has to start with kind of the bare minimum of website, and you've got to make certain that it has what it needs. So what's that bare minimum? There are certain required pages, all right, that you absolutely must have. You've got to have a privacy policy. You've got to have terms and conditions. You've got to have a page that talks about us, and you've got to have a way to sort of contact us, quote unquote. Those are the bare minimum required web pages. Now, let's talk about title and description. When you do a web search and you type in, Key West Hair Salon, this is, a sample of what might come up. Okay, and what you see in blue there, the bolded area, is the title of these websites, and what you see below that are the descriptions. Now, these are things that we control. We don't control whether we show up in the Google search engine rankings. Well, I mean, we can have an influence on it, but ultimately it's Google that makes that decision, right? But we do control by controlling the title tag and the description tag within our website. We control how things show up. You'd be amazed at how many people do the work of search engine optimization and things like that to get to show up in the Google search engine rankings, and yet they really don't put any effort into their title and their description. And as a Google searcher, and it's just common sense, I mean, you're going to look at these and you're going to be drawn to some of these, right? Like best salon in Key West, spoil me rotten, okay? As opposed to the bottom one where it just says salon and spa Key West, right? Spoil me rotten, which is actually the name of the place, but the best salon in Key West. I mean, those are things that might draw your eye. Whether they're true or not doesn't really matter. It's going to draw your eye. And then some people put things in the description that are key, like Hair Avita, meet our hairstylists that specialize in. Well, that's not really very interesting. It's not really something that differentiates them. But then look under the hair salon Key West best salon. It says the studio hair and tanning salon is the largest in Key West. Best hairstylist, affordable prices. These make a difference, right? So that's another thing to be concerned about when you're building your website. Here we're talking about the minimum required. You've got to pay attention to your title and description. This is very, very important for when you do start to show up in the search engine rankings. You should have a local business schema. And that is simply just some code behind the scenes that helps Google understand that you're a local business and where you are, and it makes it very, very easy for Google. Now, we actually have a little tool that'll do this for you and generate it for you, and if you have someone else building your website, they can build this, or they can use our tool, or you can give it to them. So don't worry about what it is or how to make it happen. Just know you got to have it. Okay, it's part of the minimum requirement, which is what we're talking about here. I would suggest that embedding Google Maps is a good idea on the Contact Us page. It's something that we think helps with the search engine rankings. We think helps anything you can do to make sure that Google understands you're a local business and where you are and what you're all about is going to be helpful to you. So you should embed the Google Maps. You've all seen these on websites. We have a little tool that'll help you do that. So if you're doing this yourself, you can do that. If you're outsourcing it, you can use our tool, or they can do it for you. But either way, this should be part of your minimum requirements. Every single web page, you should have your name, address, and phone number. Absolutely. Okay, this will help Google understand who you are and what you're doing. Okay. One thing to note: there are two kinds of mobile websites. Okay, or two ways of consuming websites from a mobile device. One is when you have a completely separate website that has different functionality and look and feel. And typically, like if you use CNN, you go to www.cnn.com on your computer. If you pull up your smartphone and go to CNN, you'll likely go to m.cnn.com, which is the mobile site. And it looks different. It has different functionality. That's a big investment. What I would encourage you to do is simply, when you're building your own website or you're outsourcing it, just simply make sure that it's called responsive. What that means is that it's mobile friendly. It's not a different site, but it will scale and it will look appropriate on a mobile device. That's all you need to be doing. Okay? Don't get caught into this, now you got to build two websites, for crying out loud. Okay? So again, bare minimum here. This will get most of where we need to be. Just make sure that your design, when you have someone do it or you're doing it yourself, is what we call responsive, and meaning that it will tailor itself to a mobile device. So bare minimum, you want to get a home page, which is just a main overview of who you are, what you do. You can copy the darn competition, for crying out loud, to get some inspiration. You need to have an About Us page. On that page, you should have an embedded Google map. Okay. You could also put the embedded Google map on the Contact Us page, either one or both, doesn't matter. Okay. So you should have a home page, About Us page, a Contact Us page, a Terms and Condition page, a privacy page. You should have your local schema in there, and you should have your name, address, and phone number on all pages. If you do this, and only this, okay, you are going to get about 80% of the benefit of having a website, and you can move on with more important parts of your marketing plan. And then later on, all right, once you've mastered everything else, once you've gotten everything else firing on all cylinders, you can always go back and build the best website on the planet to get you that last 20%. But for now, that should be enough. So where do you go from here? You've got to decide how you want to build your website. And usually there are two or three different ways to do it. One, you could sort of build it from scratch if you're computer savvy. That's probably not most people. The second is that there are companies online, that allow you to sort of drag and drop and build your own website. And then finally, there is the ability to outsource someone else building a website for you. My suggestion, all other things being equal, is to outsource it. And not to us, but we've got a training video that explains who we think you should go outsource it to. It's really easy. You get designers that compete for what you're after, and I personally think that's the best idea. So again, keep in mind, we're looking for the bare minimum. We're looking for the easiest path. We don't want you to get bogged down when you're a new company. You're just starting out. This is not where you want to spend all your time, but you got to get the bare minimum, and you got to get that right.